Hey guys, my name is Ronan, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about a pilot that's not really too well known. Um, whenever discussions brought up about him, I find that not too many people actually know who he is. So hopefully today you'll learn a little bit more about him and understand why he's so important. So my presentation's over Erich Hartmann, a pilot in the Luftwaffe during World War II. So Eric hold on, if we can get this working. Eric was born in 1922 in Weissach, Germany. I'm probably butchering it. I'm sorry. To a Dr. Alfred Erich Hartmann and his wife, Elizabeth. But they were not long for Germany. Germany was going through some financial troubles because of the war and war reparations. I mean, I think they finished up paying all their war reps from World War One in like 2011. So they had a lot of debt they had to pay back, and the economy was not faring too well. So um, the Hartman family moved to China in around 1922. Right when Eric was born, he went almost immediately to China, and his father started up a pharmaceutical and doctoral business up in uh, China, and they had to move back to Germany pretty soon after, due to a civil war breaking out in China between eventually the Communist Party that took power. So once in Germany, Eric began taking a really good interest in the Luftwaffe's glider program. His mother was a one of the first female glider pilots in Germany, and she kind of put the thought of flight into Eric's head, making him want to pursue it more, and eventually um, flying in the Luftwaffe during World War II. So he started attending a school for political education at his parents' request, but the strictness and self-imposing rule that the Nazis had in place at a political type school was way too rigid for Hartman. He didn't really enjoy the way that people treated him or how he had to act and how rigid and structured everything was, which was actually a trend that would follow him to his eventual pilot training and his flight during World War II. Um, Eventually, through his mother's encouragement, he instructed a Hitler Youth glider program in his city in 1936, and then eventually received his powered private pilot's license in 1937. And then 3 years later, with the war almost basically in its infancy, he joined the Luftwaffe and continued through fighter pilot the fighter the fighter pilot program until he had progressed to flying the Bf 109 fighter, which is the one pictured here. That's actually a picture of him with his plane in 1942. So the war had been 3 years in the making at this point, and he was sent to Russia to fight in the Caucasus region. So within his first two flights, he was not actually too successful. Um, he crashed both of the planes that he flew. He was supposed to be flying a Stuka dive bomber to the front with him as he was traveling, and he eventually crashed it on takeoff. And then his first flight in his squadron with the Bf 109, he crashed because he ran out of fuel. So, not a triumphant start to our Aces history, but that's just how it is. His first kill came almost 2 months after his original start, in November of 42, when he took down an Il-2 Soviet fighter, which was actually really notorious for having really, really heavy armor and being really, really difficult to shoot down. So, an okay start. But eventually, Hartman began to develop this kind of fighting style that was a little bit unique, where he would not try and engage fighters at a long distance. He would really try and close the gap, try to make it so he had the ability to surprise and jump on his enemies, which was very, very unique to him and his squadron mates, who eventually started to adopt the process as well after seeing how successful he became. even shooting as close as 66 feet away, which is almost 100 times or 100% closer than would be normal for engagement for the Luftwaffe's doctrine. So, this is his kill chart in terms of his career, his around 3 year career. So from November 42 to May 43, only 17 confirmed kills. Not the best, but eventually he would turn that around. From June 43 to December 43, he had 159 confirmed kills. That's almost a kill a day, and he had 5 days with 5 or more kills. So that's 5 kills per day 5 days out of that 6 month period. From January 44 to June 44, he had 266 confirmed kills with 9 days with 5 or more kills. From July 44 to January 45, 336 confirmed kills, 22 kills in a 3 day period within that 6 months. Um, and then from February 45 to the end of the war, he rounded up his total to 352, which is the most confirmed air to air kills ever in history. Um, he acquired 7 incredibly high list medals, which specifically included the Knight's Cross with oak leaves, swords, and diamonds, which was only gifted to only 26 other people in the entire German military during the entirety of the war. However, his story doesn't end so happily. On May 8th, his squadron had been pushed back all the way to Berlin as the war was closing, and he was ordered to fly and surrender to the British to avoid the Soviets, who were notoriously bad for treating prisoners. But instead, he stayed and guided his wingmen and their families to British lines so that they didn't have to suffer like he did when he was eventually captured by the Soviet Union. He was sent to a forced labor camp right after the end of the war and convicted in a sort of like faux trial court for 25 years. Um, but his notoriety did not go unnoticed. Whenever prisoners were hearing that he had actually been sent to their prison, they would get all excited talking about. I mean, he was the one. He was the most successful pilot in history. Um, so soldiers continuously rioted or refused or even did hunger strikes just to make sure that uh, the Soviets knew who they were dealing with. Um, but thankfully, he did not actually have to spend those 25 years that he was sentenced to. He was well known not to break at all in his character. He was always happy. He was always steadfast and determined to just get back to his home country and not give the Soviets any valuable information. In 1955, 10 years into his sentence, the new West German chancellor um, released Erich Hartmann back to Germany, to which a massive, huge celebration in his hometown was supposed to commence. But he actually declined it, saying that if the Soviets saw how Germany celebrated when a prisoner came back, they would not want to send back any prisoners. So very, very selfless kind of guy. Um, and afterwards, he settled back into civilian life. He joined the West German Air Force, leading a new squadron into development and adoption of jet fighters, which were a fledgling technology that Germany used during the war. He eventually died in 1933 in his hometown, but his massive achievements would outlive him and still outlive him to this day. His total amount of kills have never been surpassed, and his unique style of see, decide, attack, reverse sort of surprise attack has been used through multiple wars and is still used in modern jet fighters to this day. Um, his unique and boyish character led him through captivity until towards the end of his life, and he's regarded as one of not only the best pilot in Germany, but the best pilot in the entire world. Seeing his country through the darkest periods, through the Nazis, all the way up until right around the unification of Germany. A quote from Eric Hartmann kind of spoke to me a little bit. He says, "Never allow yourself to hate people because of the actions of a few. Hatred and bigotry destroyed my nation, and millions died. I would hope that people did not hate Germans because of the Nazis or Americans because of slaves. Never hate, and only eats you alive. Keep an open mind and always look for the good in people. You may be surprised what you find. Thank you guys so much.